And welcome to our YouTube exclusive video here. We're featuring some oohs and ahs today at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, so let's get back to it. We started things out with our house favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. And we've got, what can I say, lots of sunspots once again. They've mainly been stable here over the past 24 hours. The likelihood of major solar flares and additional coronal mass ejections remains very high. We do have a coronal mass ejection headed toward Earth as well. And again, we're going to show some oohs and ahs today. First, the radio flux, now up to 176 solar flux units. There's the one-year chart. You can see we're approaching the 180 number, the highest radio flux readings that we've seen for solar cycle 25. The black line is the one-year chart of the radio flux. The red line is the sunspot number. Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard not forecasting any geomagnetic unrest or geomagnetic storm conditions. I would say on the 19th, around midday, we can expect to see, that would be Tuesday, July 19th, we can expect to see a coronal mass ejection strike. Maybe a KP5 geomagnetic storm or maybe a KP4 geomagnetic unrest condition as a result of that coronal mass ejection strike. We covered it yesterday. Now let's take a look at the earthly geospace here. This is Earth's magnetic moment from space. We're actually showing the density as well as the pressure today. And we've got a very low density environment. Now it could be because of errors in the solar wind readings, but this is what happens when you see a low density environment. If you have a very low density solar wind, well, you've got a low density environment of plasma around the planet. That's Earth to about 12 Earth diameters in terms of its magnetic moment from space. And what we're showing here is the density in protons per cubic centimeter. The blue is high density, the white is low density. So a very clean plasma environment there, not a lot of plasma around the Earth, at least according to the readings from ACE and Discover at Lagrange 1. That also makes for a low pressure environment. This is the magnetohydrodynamic pressure. And like the density video, it's the last 4 hours. Magnetohydrodynamic pressure expressed here by the Space Weather Modeling Framework in nanopascals. So we'll expect a pretty significant signal here if we do indeed see a glancing blow coronal mass ejection strike, as we talked about on yesterday's video. Next, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. We've got geomagnetic calm conditions. We don't expect to see a whole lot of geospace delta B showing up here, changes to Earth's B field. And for you new viewers, thanks for tuning in. The scale shown on this imagery here is nanotesla magnetic flux density, Earth's magnetic moment from the ground. Again, we've got some oohs and ahs. First, let's look at the KP index, which is at 2 at the moment. Again, geomagnetic calm conditions. And here's the error bars that we're talking about. You see these red and orange bars down here. Those are likely errors from the ACE and Discover readings. You see these bars down here by my arrow. And that's because the solar wind density is showing up as only about a quarter of a proton per cubic centimeter. You need 4 cubic centimeters to get 1 proton, approximately. And yeah, that's a very low reading. And not super confident that that's legit, but in any case, that's what we're showing. Again, these are measured at Lagrangian 0.1, about 1 million miles toward the sun, in between Earth and sun. Solar wind speed showing up at about 440 kilometers per second. That's a little more believable than the a quarter of a proton per cubic centimeter solar wind density. Goes magnetometers there over the past 3 days, smoothing out a little bit. This was an ongoing coronal hole high-speed stream, these spiky readings in here. And we're seeing that subsiding. All signs point to the fact that it is. Now let's take a look at the heliospheric current sheet. The plasma that the sun puts out is polar, and Earth lies in a south pole-oriented current sheet shown there in red. Nothing to write home about there. Here's our line of sight plot. That's the top view ecliptic plane field plot. This is the line of sight field plot, showing the solar magnetogram and the solar B field in blue. Let's move to coronal holes next before we get to some oohs and ahs. And we hope you haven't been whisked off by a tornado and sent to Oz. We've got some well-defined coronal holes here in the eastern portion of the solar disk. You can see them there in red, and here they are in 193 angstroms, quite well-defined. As the south solar polar field is migrating to the north, it's what happens throughout a solar cycle. And there's some evidence of it from the SDO imagery in 193 angstroms. Also some filamentary activity going on down here, and we'll show you some spectacular close-ups of that in a bit. Next, let's move to sunspots. And there are lots of sunspots. So we see as many as 12 groups showing up here on the solar flare probability monitor. Likelihood of large flares very high, especially as sunspot 3055 approaches the western limb. It's a huge sunspot. And large solar flares more likely at the limb. We've been talking about it for quite a while on the channel, and maybe it gives us some insight into the underlying physics and what stars are indeed made of. Again, likelihood of solar flares very high. Likelihood of coronal mass ejections continues to be very high as well. Still a lot of filaments in between Earth and Sun, suspended in the solar corona by the Sun's magnetic fields. There's a 1700 angstrom view, and let's zoom in a little closer here. Get a little closer. Don't be shy. The main evolution of sunspots has been occurring on this sunspot group down here. It's actually grown a little bit here over the past 24 hours. The rest of those sunspots have been largely stable. That video does depict the last 24 hours. We'll let that play through one more time, since we're showing you the most detailed imagery of space weather and the closest star on the entire internet on our channel. So here's the X-ray profile over the past 3 days, and there were 2 M-class flares there. One of them in the past 24 hours, and a large C-class flare happening right as we did show prep today. So right around 12:20 was the peak flux of that C6.5 flare that just occurred. No relativistic particles showing up yet. The proton flux remains flatlined. Let's take a look at some flaring here in 94 angstroms. Now, 94 angstroms is one of the wavelengths that's specifically designed to view solar flares. It takes 10 images per minute instead of only 2, so it's got a 5 times higher temporal resolution, along with 131 angstroms than the other wavelengths from the SDO. 94 and 131, the best wavelengths to view solar flares from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And let's continue on here. We encourage our viewers to look up. Maybe create yourself a star chart at in-the-sky.org. Mine faces the south. That's the direction that the ecliptic lies, the path the sun takes across the sky, which is this yellow line, from our location here in Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. If you're up before dawn, you may see Jupiter, Mars, Venus, all rising ahead of the sun. Also, the moon is setting. Let's do a solar system forecast. So we've got a gibbous waning moon at the moment. Let's advance this 1 week as Mercury swings around to the far side. And there's where things will be in 1 week. We'll have a crescent waning moon as another new moon approaches. Now, let's get to some oohs and ahs. Here's ionized helium in 304 angstroms from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. And I would note this huge filament in the southwestern portion, the lower right of your screen there. Some spectacular imagery there, and an M-class flare coming from that setting sunspot group. What's that? Not close enough? Well, we'll get even closer. First, I would remind you that we do have some spectacular merch here. Today's featured product is the Fauci Face of Evil bath mat. Yes, if you'd like to put your feet on the face of evil every day when you get out of the shower, pick up a Dr. Fauci Face of Evil bath mat. What's up with the Face of Evil? It's still making the Sunday morning talk TV rounds. I don't know what's up with it, but for some reason, people just continue believing lies. I don't know why it's a thing, but for some reason, some people will just lie right to your face over and over again, and people will continue to believe it. I don't understand why it is, but for some reason, I guess it's kind of like Salem's Lot, right? You remember the vampire movie Salem's Lot, a very famous vampire movie where you have to invite evil into your household or it will not show up? I'm pretty sure what happens is evil just gives you a chance to recognize it, and if you refuse to do so, then there you go. You've invited it into your life. The Fauci Face of Evil bath mat, that's today's featured product. You can find links on the homepage at smashomash.com as well as on our YouTube channel right there. There's a link to the Red Bubble Shop. Thanks everybody for tuning in to the YouTube channel. Press like, press subscribe, and if you haven't seen our freeform discussion yesterday, we talked to Eugene for over an hour just about random whatever stuff. So thanks everybody who tuned into our live premiere event on that. Check our playlists. There are lots of videos besides space weather videos on the channel. Support the channel via clicks by visiting our homepage at smashomash.com, and welcome to the Neo Renaissance. If you want to support us via subscription services, you can find links at the homepage to the Smash Team as well, smashomash.com/SmashTeam. And if you're mad because you're not seeing all of our video content showing up in your YouTube subscription feed, then just head to smashomash.com and click posts on the Smash Team page. smashomash.com/SmashTeam. Click posts. You'll find all of our videos conveniently in one link. Because we promote our own content, we don't suppress it. We don't suppress anybody like some pathetic big tech organizations. Next, we do regularly stream live to Twitch, twitch.tv/smashomash. Install the mobile app for that. Because, hey, at the Smash News Network, least busted name in news, we prefer for you to see the content. So let's get to some oohs and ahs. Here's a slow motion video of that region. And there'll be an M-class flare showing up there, as well as some serious filamentary maneuvering. Spectacular imagery there from SDO. We slowed that down to 10 frames per second. We usually show 30 frames per second. And let's allow that to play all the way through one more time. How you like them apples? Next, while we're getting oohs and ahs, let's look at some coronagraph imagery. So here's some coronagraph imagery from George Mason University. Let's try one more time. There we go. There are the coronagraphs from yesterday from George Mason University. Again, there is some ejecta headed Earth's way. We can expect a coronal mass ejection strike midday on Tuesday, July 19th. Anyway, that's yesterday's coronagraphs. Here are today's coronagraphs. And we do indeed see some additional coronal mass ejections kicking off just today. Let's take a look at some more detailed imagery here from Stereo A and the Soho Lasco C3. And you can see this CME here. That's expected to miss Earth. But indeed, there is some additional ejecta looking like it's headed our way. So another 3 days. On the 20th, we can expect another CME strike. That's certainly a halo ejection. You can see some ejecta on all sides of the coronagraph there, an indication that some of that plasma is headed toward Earth. So just great imagery there. Let's let that play through real quick. And then we'll show some more images of the sun directly. Yowzers, just exciting stuff going on. Exciting stuff going on across the board. And we're delighted to be bringing you the most in-depth daily space weather videos and most detailed views of the sun on the entire internet. Thanks once again for tuning in. Look at all the filaments that we've got. This is the hydrogen alpha imagery from El Teide, Spain's ground-based solar observatory. Still quite a few filaments here, not nearly as many as a few days ago. And as forecasted, many of those are headed out into the greater solar system, some of them directly toward your doorstep. Here's the NASA GO 16 SUVI. With its great wide field of view, it's spectacular at showing coronal mass ejections. It's got a wider field than the SDO, but a little lower resolution. You got to give up something to get something else, folks. That's just the way the cookie crumbles. And of course, the GO 16 SUVI shows about 2.5 hours of solar activity. Here's the last 24 hours of activity in ionized helium from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. You can see how much higher resolution that indeed is. In any case, thanks for tuning into the Smash News Network, least busted name in news. We appreciate your viewership. Please press like, subscribe, share, etc. We'll see you soon. And in the meantime, may that solar wind be at your back. Opinions expressed in this video, not necessarily the opinions of Smash News Network, least busted name in news.